what made you, want to do a 360 move and come back home and, take over South Sudan basketball, right? As opposed to just, being a GM at an NBA team or, being a coach in college, like, that a lot of people probably would have took that path.
Yeah, great question. For me, coming back was important because obviously being from the continent and coming out of, South Sudan and, going to Egypt, UK, the path that, I talked about a lot. But it's important because I remember, just to go back, my first time back in South Sudan was 2010, right before the independence. I remember Amadou had a vision of, us doing basketball camps in 5 or 6 different countries every summer. And these camps we were doing outside, outdoor courts. Whoever wanted to tag along would come with us, and it just kept growing and kept growing. And I just remember, and I said it the other day, I came from, a background that's so similar to all these kids that we were trying to provide an opportunity for. And I just believe that the talent is there. It's just about the organization and the infrastructure, the same things that we talk about. And I've just got to have, I've learned so much from basketball, whether it's my high school coach, whether it's playing for Coach K, whether it's playing in the NBA for Scott Thibodeau. And as a player, I always try to read the game. So I knew, throughout my camps and everything that I was doing all over the years, the talent that we had and the opportunity that we had. And it was always been my dream, to put South Sudan in the map, but also to promote basketball and just to show people the potential in the continent. And the timing was just right. When I retired, BAL obviously was, on its way, and I just knew that there was going to be a lot of focus within the continent with the game of basketball. I was part of the NBA game in South Africa. I just seen, the growth of it to where we are here now today, and I wanted to be a part of it, but also to have my input and, what I can do. And South Sudan, obviously everybody knows the story, but when I took over that program, I knew that it's a lot to be done, but the one thing that I knew was that if we were able to have a great national team and compete, it will obviously bring excitement and joy to the whole continent, but it will also raise a lot of questions that needed to be answered. And we're still working on those, on how do we get there. So I knew right away as soon as I retired, I needed to be back here and kind of put in my blueprint.
And we thank you for that, my brother. Claire, let's talk about where we're at today. 5 years at the BAL, congratulations.
Thank you.
Not one person clapped, I'm not sure why. But talk about the vision for it, right? When you created the idea or coming up with the idea, there was a vision, a blueprint for it. I wonder, as you look 5 years post that, has it met your expectations? Has the development gone according to plan? What have been some of the struggles into this 5-year anniversary of BAL?
Thank you, and first of all, Rashad and Troy, welcome to BAL, and welcome to the NEL conference. And thanks to all of you that are still here. We talked about resilience. You're such a resilient audience. You've been here the whole day. But back to your question. So when NBA decided to invest in Africa, I think there were a number of things that were obvious. One of them that has been said, throughout the day is that there's talent in Africa. In fact, today in NBA, about 10% of our players have either directly or indirectly some links to the African continent. Either one of their parents or both their parents are from the African continent, 10%, and that's about 50 players. So already there's talent that's making its way to the NBA. Now imagine if we were to be intentional about identifying, harnessing that talent, I think those numbers would be even more, because Africa, as has been said the whole day, has talent. But also we know that not everybody can go and play in the NBA. The NBA is about 500 players, and we have 1.5 billion Africans with a lot of talent, and not everybody will have a chance to go there. So how do we create opportunities for African players or talent to stay on the continent and play professionally in a league such as the BAL that we have here? And that was one of the thought processes that went there. But also, for those of you who are great fans of NBA, you know that you have to wake up early in the mornings. My husband is one of those who always wakes up 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to switch on the lights and watch a basketball game. But when you're here, you watch a basketball game in normal hours, right? At 2 p.m., at 7 p.m., and you can go to bed in normal hours. And so that means we can actually give access to the game of basketball to a lot more people that don't have to wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. who love the game of basketball. So bringing that opportunity as well to our fans to give them something that they can interact and access was also very, very important. The other one was also being intentional around building the talent. I mean, we've talked about NBA Academy. You've heard about some of the players, Kaman Malwach, that was talked about in the previous panel, and a couple of others, Ulrich Chomchi, who is playing for Toronto Raptors. All of them went through NBA Academy, and we expect to see even more coming out of that. We have other talent, programs that we work very closely with, like Seed Academy that Amadou founded in Senegal, that has had a kind of good relationship with the NBA Academy in terms of supporting to nurture the talent in a much bigger scale. So all of that is really about how do you identify the talent. But the last thing is something that my deputy commissioner likes to talk about, Mark Tatum. The first conversations they had when they came to Africa at the time, more than 5 years ago, with heads of state, with policymakers, and it became very clear to them and the NBA that if you're going to positively impact Africa, you need to think about the youth of Africa. And what do the youth of Africa need? We've had statistics like 70% of the African population, which is 1.5 billion people, are young people below the age of 30. And so if you're going to really impact Africa, you have to think about the youth, and you have to think about how to support the creation of jobs for this youth. So outside the court, apart from the talent, those that will play basketball, also creating economic opportunities that will support the youth to get jobs and to support this ecosystem of basketball. By having the BAL in Africa, in the countries that we play, today we play in 4 countries. Our vision is to play in many, many more countries. And you can only imagine when we play in many more countries, the impact will be even more. But today, $250 million, 37,000 jobs in just 4 seasons. Imagine how much more transformation we will do if we play in 40 countries instead of 4 in the next 10, 20 years. You can just imagine.